Hey everyone, it's Billy Carson, aka Forbidden Knowledge. Welcome to Bible Study. It's hosted by myself and also my very good friend, Paul Anthony Wallace. He's an internationally known best-selling author whose books probe the world's ancestral narratives for their insight into human origins and human potential. As a senior churchman, Paul served for 33 years as a church doctor, theological educator, and archdeacon, which is just one down from a bishop. Paul's best-selling Eden series, endorsed by Eric von Daniken and the highly regarded astrophysicist Professor Avi Loeb, has made him the go-to guy in the field of paleo-contact. As the host of Fifth Kind TV and El Quinto Tipo, Paul's documentaries and interviews are watched by millions of people worldwide. Born in Buckinghamshire, England, Paul enjoyed seasons of the life in Bath, Nottingham, Portsmouth, and London. For a 10-year period, he commuted between homes in the UK and Montreal's West Island. Later settling on the east coast of Australia, his global travels have included horse trekking around the waters of the Sierra Nevada, in the depths of the Grand Canyon, and the foothills of the Himalayas. Paul has swam in the piranha-infested Amazon and also in the Red Sea. He has parachuted both in Britain and Australia and survived charging rhinoceros in Zambia. More importantly, his peaceful pilgrimages have included India, Egypt, Zimbabwe, Brazil, France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Hong Kong, and Singapore. He's even, of course, visited New Zealand. As a theological educator, Paul designed and delivered in-service training for pastors of churches in the UK, Korea, West Africa, and Australia from the 1990s to the 2000s, all the way through the 2010s, delivering courses on the history of Christian thought and biblical hermeneutics, which are the principles of interpreting actual texts. Ordained 34 years ago in St. Paul's Cathedral in London, Paul's work included planting 6 new churches in Anglican and charismatic streams from the 1980s through the 2000s. In the 2000s, he provided consultancy for Anglican and non-aligned grassroots churches as a church doctor and archdeacon in the Anglican Church in Australia. Paul designed and delivered conflict resolution, community healing, and appointment processes in the 2000s through 2010s. It was Paul's studies in the Hermeticus and the history of Christian thought which led him from the familiar canons of mainstream preaching into the world of paleo-contact, ancestral narratives, and contemporary contact phenomena. An Australian by choice, Paul's heritage is primarily English, Welsh, and Ghanaian, with deep ancestry in West Africa, Switzerland, and Denmark. Paul is married to Ruth, the founder of See My Curls and O's for Men. Ruth is of Ghanaian heritage, and together they have 3 children and live in Australia's East Coast. Paul is a musician, a mystic, an enthusiastic chef, and barefoot walker. Please welcome to the show, Paul Anthony Wallace. So welcome to the first episode of Bible Study with Billy Carson and Paul Wallace. How you doing, Paul?
G'day, Billy. It's great to be with you.
Yes, man. Good day. I see we both got our spectacles on.
Yes. We were just saying it's kind of a rite of passage when that happens.
Yeah. You know, for a long time, it's just like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. But I did receive a little cornea damage from filming on a sound stage, and the bright lights shining, lesson learned, for 16 hours a day, it gave me a little cornea damage. So now, unfortunately, I need these. Yeah.
Well, I first got specs when I was 14, when I became a bit short-sighted. But now I'm at the stage of, do I want to look in the distance or read my notes? And I need 2 different pairs of specs for that. I haven't yet gone for the multifocals.
Yeah. I understand. So obviously, the reason why we started this podcast is because we wanted to be able to analyze deeper a lot of the ancient texts, biblical texts, and different texts from even around the world. It could be the Torah, it could be the Quran, it could be many different texts. But you being one of the foremost expert in a lot of this information, as you had been involved in the church for 33 years, I thought you would be the perfect person to do this with me and to eventually really teach me some things as well, because it's a lot of knowledge that you have in your head that I don't have in mine yet.
Well, I'm looking forward to this too, because people know me as the paleo-contact guy.
Right.
Paleo-contact, in case people don't know, is the theory that in the deep past, our ancestors had contact experiences with other civilizations. But my route into that has been through my studies of the Bible, 33 years in church-based ministry. I was a theological educator, training pastors in hermeneutics, which is the principles of interpreting ancient texts.
Right.
And it was really that work that got me into this field. And I was absolutely sold out on the traditional, mainstream, orthodox view of the Bible. I was an archdeacon in the Anglican Church in Australia. That's one down from a bishop. And so my life was really wedded to a particular way of reading the Bible. But through now, 40 years of preaching from it and 15 years of training pastors to study it, it has forced me to engage with those texts at a deeper level and to see things in the text that actually don't fit with our conventional tellings.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. You know, I'm not an expert in biblical text, and I don't pretend to be. I make, statements or theories or ideas about what I've seen and what I perceive to understand in text and a lot of the religious texts, and comparing it to a lot of the ancient texts. One thing that I found, and you can tell me if I'm on the right or wrong path, is I found that there seems to be a lot of incredible parallels between ancient text and biblical text. I see stories kind of being extremely similar in certain areas, where it seems as if, since these ancient texts were a little bit older than the biblical text, it seems as if some of it was somehow copied or rewritten or reinterpreted and put into some of the newer text.
Well, this is something that every pastor learns when they go to seminary or theological college. I did my theology degree at the University of Nottingham, and you were confronted with the fact that the Bible has sources, that the biblical writers have had other sources before them, which they have used in some fashion to shape the familiar stories of, well, we take them as stories of God, but I argue not all of them are. The stories of the Elohim and the stories of Yahweh, some of those are a retelling of Mesopotamian story. Now, Christians didn't know this until the 1800s. And it was only after we found the translation key, the Behistun inscription, that allowed us to read the ancient cuneiforms from out of ancient Sumeria, Babylonia, Arcadia, and Assyria, began recognizing stories that they already knew from the Bible. And so it was Assyriologists like George Smith writing in 1876 and Nathaniel Schmidt writing in 1896 who started pointing out these parallels and the very high probability that the Mesopotamian texts were the sources. And if you get hold of an academic Bible, an extended study edition of the New Jerusalem Bible, for instance, they're very open about this source dependence. So we learn about this at university. We learn about this when we study theology. But then the question comes, well, what does that mean? What's the significance of that?